Hello and welcome back to the Movies Made Us Do It. Welcome to the vampire special episode of the Movies Made Us Do It by accident, I guess. How you doing, Matt?
I'm really good, sir. How are you?
Good, well, very well. We were just slagging off the Wolfman, but we haven't seen it.
Well, we're not exactly slagging off,
but it looks terrible, and apparently it's
hearing
terrible.
what some of the reviews are saying.
Mm-hmm.
It's not good.
No, which is a shame because we were saying about that Invisible Man movie was really cool,
and
they had a chance there to really.
Weirdly, that seems to be getting now some pushback.
I don't understand. I still like that movie a lot.
Yeah, people now are saying, "Oh no, it wasn't that good." It's like, why have we suddenly changed our minds on that movie?
It's weird how people change their mind on movies like that. It's like I still like it as much as I did when I saw it. I stand by that. I stand by that review. I
completely understand the criticism that it's not an Invisible Man movie.
It's not perfect. It's got some really silly scenes, like the whole dining scene. You're like, but like if anyone saw that, you wouldn't accuse her of it just doesn't make any sense.
No.
But as in the moment, as a visual thing in a horror movie, it's great, and some of the tension in that, the way that director chose to linger on shots where nothing happens.
Yep.
You think it's gonna happen and it doesn't. It's really well directed in that way. I think it's really, really well done to build that paranoia in the audience of like, oh my god, is he there? And maybe not. Maybe there's nothing.
Where she's in the bedroom just walking around doing
amazing
stuff.
Yeah.
And you're just sat there going,
the whole time.
Is he that place? Is he stood there? No, he must be sat there. No, maybe he's over there. And they just let you stew. That's beautiful.
It's wonderful. Now, I would say maybe if you're rewatching it, that effect is lost because you then know.
Yeah.
But that initial watch, I thought it was a fantastic piece of filmmaking in many places. Really liked it.
And as I said, I understand some people didn't like the fact that it's not
traditional.
Paulie Griffin and his chemicals and that sort of thing. It's not that movie. So I understand it's not your standard Universal horror movie. It is removed from that. So I understand why you wouldn't like it for that reason, but in itself, it's a bloody good movie.
I think so. I think it's great. But yeah, not hearing great things about the Wolfman and everything I've seen about it kind of makes me think it's going to be terrible. I will watch it though. I will certainly give it a chance.
That's the thing. I'm going to watch it, but it's
100%.
So far, I've heard a lot of people saying it's an overly long transformation sequence. That's reminiscent of The Fly, with a very bad payoff.
Well, I've seen what it's meant to look like, and if it's that's awful.
I was still kind of hoping that was just
mid transformation or something, or just a publicity thing. I was hoping the same, but I don't know, man. I guess we'll find out.
We will.
I guess we'll find out. Anyway, do you wanna kick us off?
Okay. Well, I'll start the vampire festivities off then with Salem's Lot.
Salem's Lot. Now,
it takes a while to get to this one, mainly because I've heard so many negative things about it, and I just thought, you know what, I'm going to give it a go.
Yeah.
I love Salem's Lot. It's been years since I've read the book, I must admit.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely adore the 70s miniseries.
Me too. It's a wonderful series.
I watched it when I was a kid, and the image of the floating window.
That's every kid's nightmare.
Was that scared a whole generation of
for sure
of kids, and it's done really. I love that a lot. Was it early 2000s version with Rob Lowe? Yeah. It was okay. I didn't mind it. So now we've got this version, which is directed by Gary Doberman and written with Stephen King and him, starring Lewis Pullman, Mackenzie Lee, Jordan Preston Carter, Billy Camp, John Benjamin Hickey, Spencer Tree Clark. It's got a pretty good... Oh, and Pilo Asbeck, who... Two people in this movie are cast, right? Pilo Asbeck is Mr. Stalker, right? And William Sadler is the detective. And you think, well, okay. Two great and Alfre Woodyard as well. Fucking William Sadler and Pilo Uzbek are criminally underused. There's like, when are we going to get more with them? So okay, this is going to lead into the problem with this version.
Well, I would imagine right off the bat, the problem's got to be the length of a movie and the fact you're shoving it into a movie.
Yeah, and that is so. I guess for those who don't know, so this basically it's set in, I think 75. It's set 70s. So it's about an author who comes back to his hometown, or a town that he was lived in until he was 9 when his parents died in a car accident. And it's kind of like he's trying to find himself and he's trying to get inspiration for his next book, sort of thing. And you've got this, the small town with secrets and all that sort of stuff, and this gentleman called Stalker moves in and opens up an antique shop called Stalker and Barlow, or is it Barlow and Stalker? Either way. And then kids start going missing and weird things start happening, and it's clear, obviously it's a vampire thing. So Kurt Barlow, shock horror, is a vampire.
Yeah.
So weirdly, not weirdly, the director said he wanted to make vampires scary again. His thing was, I don't want Twilight vampires, and he said, this seems to be the thing these days. Nobody wants Twilight. It's like nobody wanted fucking Twilight vampires anyway. Or anybody who likes vampires. So he's basically made Barlow a Nazi again, like in the miniseries, because in the book he's not at all like that. I think he's got sort of long fingers and things, and I think he's incredibly pale, and he looks a little odd, I think. But I think in the book and in the middle one, the 2000s version, he's kind of just looks like a normal guy, really, other than things. But they've gone back to the sort of miniseries, and weirdly, a lot of the shots really did remind me of the miniseries. So it almost, at times it's almost like, oh, you just watched the miniseries and
made a movie of it. Yeah,
bits of it.
So less an adaptation of the book and more an adaptation of an adaptation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the main problems with this is, like you said, it's a big old chunky book and a big old story, and they've condensed it into 2 hours, I think it is. It's not that long a movie, to be honest.
Yeah.
I can't see where the bloody... Well, yeah, 1 hour 54 it says on there. So
yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot to get into a movie.
There's a lot of characters in to get on, and you don't really get a feel for most of the characters. They're, they turn up, they say a few lines, and then they go.
Yeah.
And then Pullman's okay. He's good as Ben Mears. Mackenzie Lee is quite good as Susan Norton. Alfre Woodyard as the Doctor is okay. I think Billy Camp as Matt Burke is probably the best, because he seems to get the most to do. He's the sort of the teacher that weirdly quite quickly goes, oh, they're vampires. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
We're not even. Yeah, we're not. We're
usually we have to pretend that you've never heard of a vampire before and explain it all.
Yeah. So
it's always my pet hate in every zombie movie ever, where we have to assume that no one's ever seen a zombie movie ever before.
Yeah, exactly. So it moves through it quite quickly. It really does sort of like.
I guess it can't afford not to, really.
And that's it. Yeah, by the time you get to half the town's fucking vampires, you're like, whoa, fuck, that was really bloody quick. What, slow down a bit, can we have a bit more tension building here? Because, it would be a bit nicer if you just got to know some people a bit better. But, that's the thing. What I will say is, it actually surprises me that I was expecting it to suck really badly, and it does not.
Well, that's good. Ben had similar feelings actually.
I enjoyed it more than I thought I was going to, and it's got all the bones there. It's
That's good. I remember seeing the trailer and just thinking, God, even the color grading, like everything about it looks horrible.
Yeah,
but of course, we say this all the time. Bad trailers,
look.
Yeah,
they've tried. He's clearly tried to produce a very 70s look, which kind of makes you think, well, what you're doing here is again just reminding me of
a better show or a better film,
the miniseries, yeah. Like, which is a bit sort of silly. But there were some nice ideas. I'll spoil it slightly. One thing I will say in this, the director, I don't know whether it was intentional or not or what, but he fucking loves cars.
Okay.
The cars in this movie are fucking brilliant.
Right.
You've got all the sort of these great. And there's an appearance of a Plymouth Fury,
of course,
in a garage, which is like,
that's nice. I got time for that. And
I love the fact that Ben drives an MG, which is like, you've got all these massive American cars, and he's driving around in this little MG, which really sort of warmed my heart, and probably means nothing to like a lot of people.
Yeah.
But to me, it was like, there's just something really nice about that. It's kind of sweet. So I'm going to spoil a plot point here.
It's an old book.
Yeah, well, this is it. But this is it in this version.
Oh, this is a new thing. Okay.
So I certainly don't remember this happening in any other version, and I certainly don't remember it happening in the book. When they come to try and find where they're hiding, where are the vampires hiding? What they're doing? And Ben notices when they're on the street there are no cars around.
Right.
So they go to where the cars are, and the cars are at the drive-in.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, spoilers. All the vampires are in the boots of the cars at the drive-in.
That's cool.
I thought that is a fucking neat idea.
Yeah, I kind of like that.
I really like that as a a nice little twist, and it's just there's a little sort of there's a build-up thing to it as well. They when Ben meets Susan and stuff, and they sort of they have this almost sort of instant attraction sort of thing, and their relationship sort of does build up quite nicely. They actually although it's quite quick, it works okay. It's okay. There's a bit where they go to the drive-in, and she tells him all the people sat in the cars, like, that's the Reverend, he's drinking over there, and that's that person, and they, that sort of thing. And you see the kids sneaking in to the drive-in in the boot, so that obviously so they either don't have to pay or so they can get into a...
Yeah, so you kind of foreshadow it, and yeah.
And she says like, oh, no, that's a rite of passage, that, sneaking into the sort of thing. And you have that nice little thing. That, loved it. That was a really nice addition, actually, which I really appreciated. The guy playing Barlow, now, what was his name? Alexander Ward, who has previously played. He's another one of those actors who's like really tall and skinny, like Doug, not Doug Bradley. The Slender Man, Pan's Labyrinth. Jones.
Doug Jones, Jesus, yeah.
He's another actor that's like tall and really skinny,
yeah,
and he's played lots of
perfect for makeup, yeah.
Yeah, he's played lots of like really emaciated monsters and things and stuff. He does a pretty good job as Barlow. He's relatively, gruesome and terrible. I don't think he succeeded completely in bringing back the whole, I want my vampires to be terrifying. There are certain moments where, he's grr, and you go, okay, that works. That's, there's some nice sort of, bits. And even the scene at the window is reminiscent of the 70s one, which again is a good and a bad thing, depending how you take it. but there were some really nice shots in it. There's one I particularly liked was when I think they're at the church. I can't remember where they are now. They're sort of stood, sort of talking, and one of them says, "Look over there on the roofs," and the shot pans to the roofs of the buildings, and there are all these vampires just on the roofs, sort of like looking down at them. It's like, oh, that's a really nice shot. I like that. I was very impressed with that. So overall, I enjoyed it.
Well, that's great news.
Way more than I thought I was going to.
Yeah.
It's never going to be as good as the miniseries.
Of course not.
So I would still say, if you haven't ever seen the miniseries, go and watch that.
I rewatched it not so long ago, and I really enjoyed that miniseries. I really did.
It's been a while since I've seen it, but did you think it still held up?
I did, yes. I thoroughly enjoyed it. The thing is, though, I think you're either the kind of person that likes older movies or doesn't.
Yeah.
And I watch movies from the 30s quite happily. So for me, I'm like, yeah, the original miniseries still held up. It didn't look bad to me at all. So I really loved it. I think it's one of my favorite Soul performances, actually, as well. I really like that movie. Or
he's
miniseries.
Good.
Yeah, he's great.
It's certainly one of his best proper acting roles.
I think so, yeah. I think so. I think he's fantastic in it.
Yeah, and the sort of end is really tragic for him. He's got, I really liked it. I mean, this has got some nice little, lovely little things like in this, when they've got a cross, it, like when a vampire is near them, the cross actually glows.
Oh, that's cool.
It like properly gives off light, and I thought, oh, that's kind of neat. I mean, it's not the first time I've seen that, but for this context, it worked quite well. I did honestly think it's kind of worth your time. I think it's not the best you're going to see. It's not the promised scary vampires.
No, of course
wanted, but then I think it's really hard to do scary vampires anymore. Anyway,
I agree.
Because most people know what they're getting with vampires. It's a thing. And I'm not saying you can't do scary vampires. I'm just saying I think it's more of a challenge to do.
I was reflecting on that the other day and wondering whether Buffy the Vampire Slayer kind of trivialized vampires like irrevocably. You know what I mean? Like, because they do kind of, it's like, oh yeah.
I think Buffy did a lot to.
I mean, it brought it into the public eye again. But I also wonder whether it kind of, they're not very scary after you've seen them get dusted 1 billion times on TV.
Yeah, and the problem with those vampires as well is that they sort of set up the rules and then they sort of change them slightly towards the end. Everything is different. Spike's got a soul and he's got a soul, and it's like, okay, fine. They did slowly lose their scariness, and Twilight and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Twilight.
Hasn't really helped.
Probably not.
So yeah, it is. It's a lot harder to do scary vampires. But I've got such a they're vampires are I love vampires, absolutely.
Yes, one of your favorite things.
So maybe I'm being a little easier on this than I should be, but it certainly has its flaws, and I think the main flaw is that you don't get to know the characters well enough. It does shoot through quite quickly, and it would have been nicer to have a little bit more time for the build up. And as I said, fucking William Sadler and Pilo Asbeck just get absolutely bloody short shrift. It's like you see William Sadler turns up, and you're like, oh good, we're in safe hands. William Sadler's turned up, and then it's like, oh was that his scene? Fuck, what the fuck?
Do you think there's a longer cut out there?
I'm kind of hoping there is, because I also think I did hear that there was studio interference.
Okay.
With it. So there might be at some point
a longer version out there
that would, I think, work better.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you're a vampire fan, I think you could certainly do worse.
Oh, you can always do worse. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an
yeah.
it's a relatively well made, um, relatively well acted for what they get to do. Um, Version of Salem's Lot, and yeah, I quite liked it. I'm trying to decide whether I liked it more than I did the 2000s one, and I think I probably do.
Well, that's good news.
Just a little.
I think in a world where Dario Argento's Dracula exists, there's always a worse Dracula movie, so or a vampire movie. So you're yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I'd say give it a go if you like. I mean, if you're expecting, massively scary and something really really radically different, this isn't the movie.
You're never going to recreate that scene, like
No.
like that and being the right age to see that. Like, oh man,
there is a case of the rosy spectacles here. I think is probably too. But
I did rewatch it not so long ago though, and I did really enjoy my time rewatching the original. So I think it still holds up. But that's good. I'm glad. Like I mean, Ben was similarly. He was relatively reasonably positive about it as well. So maybe not as bad as we're hearing.
No.
It is the thing now, though, isn't it? Like, everything has to be amazing or terrible. There's no in between. There's no okay movie.
No.
But yeah. Anyway, let's move on from vampires and talk about vampires. Nosferatu. I saw Nosferatu on New Year's Day. Yes, it was that.
I'm dead impressed you went on New Year's Day. I still haven't seen it yet, which
what the fuck else am I gonna do? I was asleep by like 7 o'clock on New Year's Eve, so I was good to go. I was like ready to go. I don't really do New Year, so yeah, I've always really enjoyed it when movies release on New Year or even Boxing Day. I've enjoyed the odd cinema trip on Boxing Day when they did that.
Yeah, but here's an idea. Why not put Nosferatu in Halloween?
Don't be silly. Halloween's not for horror movies. That's for like horror movies come out in mid-June usually. And we're like, why are you doing this?
No,
this is why I watched fucking like 3 or 4 Paranormal Activity movies in a row, because they just were the only films out at Halloween.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I want to go to the cinema and see a horror movie on Halloween. Is that too much to ask? I guess it's fucking Paranormal Activity 3 then. Fine. But anyway, New Year's Day, I went to see Nosferatu. We have, in great depth, talked about both Murnau's Nosferatu and, of course, Herzog's Nosferatu at the same time. I love both of those films. I love the Murnau version. I absolutely adore the Werner Herzog version. In my opinion, it's up there as one of the greatest remakes of all time.
Agreed.
So here we have this version. It's Robert Eggers, maker of amazing movies. So I couldn't have been happier, especially when I saw that trailer. One of the most impressive trailers I saw last year.
And I think that for me, that was the reason why I was more than willing to give this a go.
Oh, if it was anyone else, I would have been like, oh no.
Yeah, exactly. I think there were very few directors that I'd go, yeah, okay, I'd like to see what that person would do with Nosferatu.
There's very few directors that I would say, okay, I'm curious what they do. But Eggers certainly was one of them. I adore The Witch. I love the Lighthouse. I think is fucking wonderful. I know why I get why you hate it, but I love it.
Yeah, because it's
I know,
fucking
not
weird.
you, Matt. I know you love it, but I'm just saying I understand why a lot of people would hate The Lighthouse.
Yeah.
I liked The Northman a lot as well. It's my least favorite of his. I still think it's a fantastic movie.
I mean, that's the thing that, as we said before, is like the Northman is his.
It's quote unquote his worst film, but it's still better than everyone else's films.
Having said that, it's a fucking amazing film.
Yeah.
So saying it's his worst movie when he's only really done like 4 movies, so
yeah. So here comes Eggers with his version, 2024 Nosferatu, starring Lily Rose Depp, Nicholas Hoult, Bill Skarsgård, Aaron Taylor Johnson, just a William Dafoe, just an amazing cast as well to back this up. Get the obvious out of the way. as you would expect from Eggers, wonderfully shot, beautiful cinematography, framing, like color grading, everything. It's beautiful.
I mean, you'd think there was something wrong if Eggers had produced an ugly movie.
It's just I don't know that he's capable.
No.
of producing a terrible looking movie. It's wonderful to look at. It's gorgeous, and to be honest, if you hate The Witch and you really can't stand Lighthouse, I think give this one a go, because this is by far his most conventional film.
More conventional than The Northman?
I would say so, yes.
Oh, okay.
Well.
Because The Northman's relatively conventional, except for sort of the, the scenes where you see the Valkyries or the.
I will say, I will say it's his most conventional film with an asterisk. And that is that it's his most conventional film if the film is made in the 1930s or 40s or 50s, because it goes back to right. So Eggers is a huge fan of Nosferatu. Has wanted to make this since The Witch, I think.
I was going to say it was supposed to be his second movie, wasn't it?
He's been trying to make this forever. Okay. It's a passion project. He loves Nosferatu. And it really shows. This plays out very much like a traditional horror movie. You're not getting. There's a couple of jump scares, but you're not getting any of that. You're not going into this getting like a big a modern conventional horror movie.
Yeah.
What you're getting is a very classic conventional horror movie. I would like to point out something though that I've always found slightly weird. Go on.
With filmmakers, it's the idea that. Oh, my favourite movie. My favourite movie is Blade Runner, right?
Yeah, I would never try and make Blade
Runner.
The
idea that I would go, I'd like to remake that movie.
Yeah, I know, I agree. That would be like me being like, I'm going to remake 1954 Godzilla. Fuck, no.
So
no.
You do sort of think, okay, but are you sure?
No, I'd be like, if I'm a very capable filmmaker, I'm like, I'm going to make War of the Worlds, because there's never been a good Victorian War of the Worlds, so I'm gonna go do that.
Well, that I can get with. I can certainly.
But if someone had already aced it, and I don't get me wrong, I love the 50s version, obviously, but it's in the 50s. I want a Victorian version. If someone's already aced it, like Nosferatu, I'm like, I'm not gonna beat fucking Murnau or Herzog, am I? But fair play to him. He's a great director, and it shows. So I do think it's his most conventional film, but it is a film. It feels like a historical horror movie, not a modern horror movie. Mainly due to the fact that it is a relatively faithful adaptation of Nosferatu. And funny enough, I saw a lot of criticism of this film was like, oh, it's boring towards the end, and I'm like, but that's the fucking story of Nosferatu. Like, he's just following the story, guys. Like, don't know what you want from him. Like, you've gone to the wrong movie. There are differences, of course, but for the most part, it's a relatively faithful retelling. I think. Cinematography and everything else aside, the sound is unbelievably good and very effective throughout, and the cast. I mean, Bill Skarsgård, superb. I said to you, I also saw Boy Kills World, which was wonderful. As an aside, I wasn't going to talk about it today because you've already reviewed it, but I loved it. But here, as Orlok, he is Orlok. He's not Dracula, so he's gone back on the Herzog. We'll call him Dracula. He is Count Orlok, which I'm really glad about. I'm glad he stayed with Orlok. I mean,
it does bring up a really odd sort of thing that some people have, and it's it's got to be Dracula or Nosferatu, and you think, well, but at their origins they're the same thing.
Well, yeah, it's a rip-off of Dracula. That's the whole point.
I don't know why people are sort of have this whole, oh no, you have to have this or you have to have that. It's like, no, you don't. It's all the same story.
Of course it is.
At its core.
The original even gives rights to it now these days. They all have to if they don't want to be deleted from existence. They're all based on Bram Stoker's novel. Or at least the character. So he is wonderful as Orlok. I think his performance is superb. His voice in the film is very effective. Particularly in the early scenes, in the castle, in the early scenes, it's superb. It's amazing.
The voice coach, I think, to get his voice lower, was it?
Yeah, apparently so. He was doing some like breathing techniques and voice techniques to do that, and it sounds amazing. He has fantastic on-screen presence as Orlok. I love the look of Orlok. I know some people didn't like the mustache.
There was an article that came out. I can't remember who it was, but they were saying, "Oh, this movie has one fatal flaw, and it's his mustache." I mean,
no, he looks like an
flaw.
He looks like an undead nobleman. It makes perfect sense. A nobleman of that period, yes, mustache, sure. It's not like I didn't understand that criticism. I thought when I saw that, I was like, "Oh, that's interesting. I'd never considered that before." But yeah, a nobleman. He looks like a nobleman.
Look at pictures of Vlad Tepes.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's a nobleman of that period. It makes sense.
Yeah,
totally makes sense.
That's the thing is, I think it's also partially that people don't really have a fucking sense of history anymore.
Well, maybe, but I thought they did a very good job of making him look like an undead nobleman, which I guess differs somewhat from previous depictions of Orlok or Dracula. He's much more. He looks almost more human in some ways, but just rotting and undead. As opposed to, obviously in the Murnau version, he's a lot more kind of monstrous, and the same with the Herzog version. He feels much more powerful than in the Herzog version. Obviously, in the Herzog version, he's kind of pathetic, as we said before. So it kind of harkens back to the original more in that kind of he feels a bit more strong and a bit more kind of powerful.
Yeah, the Herzog version he's a real tragic figure.
I think so. Which is why I think I love that version, because it's got a very unique spin on it.
Miserable bastard.
Yeah, he's a miserable bastard. This one feels much more in line with the Murnau version, I think, if any of them. Although it has got its own kind of take on it. Nicholas Hoult, who is brilliant in everything, you'll be unsurprised to know, is brilliant in this. He's absolutely superb.
It's amazing in the last sort of, I don't know, 5 or so years, how fucking...
Oh my god.
How amazing he's just turned out to be.
I mean, when I saw him in like X-Men movies, and I was like, wow, he's doing a really good job in this Beast role. I'm really surprised. And now you see him in stuff, you're like, yeah, I know he's going to be good, because he's excellent in everything.
It sort of crept up on us, though, didn't it? I think
I think it was like Fury Road and stuff like that, where I was like, wow, he has got range actually. Like, he's, but yeah, you see him in stuff now, you're like, wow,
he's been in so many things, and it's just and it's almost like he does such a good job that you don't notice.
And I also think he's an actor who's unafraid to just fucking do any role, Yeah. Like, he's not going to be typecast. He will do the whole gambit of characters,
Yeah.
And you've got to respect that in an actor. He is very diverse in his portfolio. But he's wonderful as Thomas Hutter. Lily,
quite a nice guy in real life too.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Which is always nice.
Lily Rose Depp is great, actually. I wasn't sure she was going to be, I wasn't sure. I've never seen her before, so I was like, oh. Okay.
I have been slightly worried about.
I thought for the most part she was fantastic.
Because I'm trying to think, I'm not sure whether I've seen her in anything either. I've never seen I haven't seen Yoga Hosers, and I haven't seen Tusk.
I have seen Tusk, but I've forgotten most of it.
So I don't. No, I'm looking for her things. I don't think I've seen her in anything, but. And the main reason I worry is because Anya Taylor-Joy was supposed to be that part.
Yeah.
And that just makes me think, oh.
Yeah, I'm not sure why Anya Taylor-Joy didn't. I'm guessing it was just conflicting.
I think it was because I think it took so long. I think there was names attached to it before that didn't pan out because of
filming,
sorts of things
schedules
happened,
and stuff, yeah.
Captained and all that sort of stuff, I think.
And Eggers definitely feels like one of those people that he likes his actors, and he's like, I'm going to reuse you guys forever. No, I thought Lily Rose Depp was great for the most part. There are definitely a few scenes, if I had one criticism. There are a couple of scenes, and it's not the writhing scenes that everyone's complaining about. I just thought there were a couple of scenes where I could see her acting.
Okay.
If that makes sense. You know when someone's really trying and you're like, yeah, I can see you're acting. I can see you're trying really hard. Only a couple of times. I thought for the most part Lily Rose Depp was superb. Really liked her in this movie. Aaron Taylor Johnson, fucking redemption after Kraven the Hunter. Yes, he's great in this movie. Fantastic.
What is it about? I was going to say Anya Taylor-Joy then. And Aaron Taylor-Johnson seems to be one of those actors that does one good thing and then does a load of terrible things.
And then he just comes back. He's like, I'm going to do bullet training and I'm going to do a big old pile of shit for a while. And I'll come back and do this. But of course, he's done Nosferatu and then he's got 28 years later and all that stuff coming up. So he's got good stuff coming up, hopefully.
Yeah,
so hopefully redeemed.
I mean, really hopeful of that one. So
I don't need to talk about Willem Dafoe. He's amazing. He's fucking superb. He's like chewing the scenery to bits and is wonderful.
Yeah, it's Willem Dafoe. So
yeah. Ralph Ineson, also great. Smaller role, but he's fantastic in it.
I've heard the guy. He usually plays weird fucking characters. Is it Simon McBurney? He's playing Knock.
Yeah, Herr Knock. Yeah,
he is really good.
He is brilliant in this. Brilliant. So yeah, the cast are great. The plot is great. I loved this movie. I absolutely loved it. I don't really have a criticism. It's that was a really fucking long review to say I really liked this fucking movie. I thought it was really good. Is it my favorite adaptation? I don't know that any's going to beat the Herzog version for me personally. That is just such a good remake, but this is a solid remake. It's got its own spin on it. I really liked it. I think it looks beautiful as you would expect from Eggers. It's a near flawless adaptation. It's just a case of like, which do you prefer? What personal choice. There's nothing wrong. I couldn't really criticize this film. I think it's really, really good. I like the connection they make where the idea is that Ellen is, as a young girl, very lonely. And so she basically pleads for something to erase her loneliness, which is how she makes the connection. And then later in life, obviously, it's all orchestrated by Orlok to as a result. Which is a slightly different take, I thought, and I quite liked that. I thought it was quite interesting. But yeah, overall, I really have nothing bad to say about this film. I thought it was superb. I'm really, really excited to hear your take on it, Matt. So
yeah, I must admit, I'm slightly worried because a lot of the reviews have heard laughter in certain bits that has made me go, oh, okay.
Well, I didn't. We didn't have that. I have read about that, but I didn't see that.
So I'm still hopeful. I'm probably not going to see it in the cinema now.
But when you do see it, we'll come back to this and we'll talk about it. But
well, glowing from you. That's
I mean, it's Eggers. It's not going to be shit.
Well, that's
One day he'll do it. One day he'll make
I'm sure. Yeah,
he'll make a bag of shit, and we'll be like, wow. And it's like, just couldn't be bothered today.
When everyone gets to the point where they're making crap, so it's just everyone drops the ball at some point, and he hasn't yet. But
yeah, sure, yeah. At some point, everyone becomes Ridley Scott, but yeah.
I mean, Ben Wheatley is one of my favorite directors, and he's made some very odd choices in the last few years.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I guess it does happen. I mean, like I was just saying, Ridley Scott. I two of my favorite films of all time. I will always love Ridley Scott for the films he's made, but my God, do I dislike a lot of his new stuff.
It's not only that, he's become such a miserable twat about everything.
Yes, that too.
It's almost like, stop it, just stop talking.
You can be a miserable twat if you're making good stuff. You can get away with it a lot more then. But...
I mean, you could say he has the right to be a miserable twat.
No, he does. Of course he does. He's one of the most accomplished directors of all time.
Yeah.
Do what you want.
He's kind of got the right to be a miserable twat.
Yeah.
But sometimes it feels damaging when he says things sometimes.
I agree.
Like, you just think, oh, don't be like that.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't do that, because you're damaging not only yourself, you're damaging your reputation, and that's not good.
I completely agree. Anyway, do you wanna give us a brief reprieve from vampires, unless one of your other films is also a vampire movie, in which case
no. They are not. So my next, I will do. Let's do Kill. So I watched this. So this was one of those sort of. I really want an action movie, and I looked on Amazon and thought, okay, oh that one came. This came out 2023. I think it came out over here last year, but
it's called Kill, which
yeah.
presumably would be an action film.
Yeah. So I am gonna utterly butcher these names. I'm terribly.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna try. I'll leave you to do that.
So it's an Indian movie. Director Nikhil Nagash Bhatt.
That was pretty good, I think.
Starring.
I'm gonna back you up on that and say that was well done.
Well, thank you. Starring Lakashay, Raghav Jiyal, Tanya. Oh, here's one. Manik Tala. Okay, and I'm gonna give up there.
Yeah, we tried.
But so basically, we've got Amrit, played by Lakshay, who is a commando, and his friend. That you see them coming, finishing an operation. They've been away for a while on operations, and he turns on his phone and he gets all these like 1,000 messages from his girlfriend, who says, "Where are you? You know, why can't I get hold of you?" Blah, 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 you know, sort of thing. And they're increasingly getting more desperate to the point where she says, "My father has arranged a marriage. I'm engaged to this guy."
Right.
So he's like, "Fuck! I've got to, do something about this." So he goes to try. He goes to her engagement party, and it's like, "Come on, run away with me." And she's like, "No, no." She says, "I will marry you. I only want to marry you. I love you," sort of thing. But she says, "I'm not going to run away with you like that. I'm not going to do that." She says, "Okay." So they're going to go to where is it? Where is it? Delhi? I think it's Delhi. Yeah, Delhi. So they're going to travel to Delhi. I forget why they're traveling to Delhi. They're going to Delhi, and her father is he's like this massive. I think he's a transport magnate. So he's rich and he's a well respected man. So they're on this train. He turns up to sort of basically to ask her to marry him, and they're on separate parts of the train, but they have a brief conversation, and they're parted. Meanwhile, this band of thieves have turned up on the train, and they're gonna rob everybody. But the cocky young son of the sort of leader of the bandits, a guy who's humorously for us named Fanny, is the sort of as happens in these gang movies, he's the young son with ideas above his dad. He's that.
Yeah.
Why are we doing this? We should be doing this. So he finds out who her father is, and he decides he's going to kidnap them and ransom them off.
Right.
So then basically what ensues is like 2 hours of train knife fighting. Well, it's not quite 2 hours, hour and 45 minutes. So let's
that's still
let's
a lot of knife fighting.
Yeah, let's say an hour and 20 of fighting on a train.
Right, okay, yeah.
So Keanu Reeves picked up this movie for distribution. He saw it and was like,
"This is awesome." Yeah,
that's the very movie for me. The main guy, Lakshay, I think this is his first movie. I think.
Right. How was he?
Is fucking awesome.
Cool.
And there's this thing. It's been a while since I've seen an Indian movie, and they do that thing where not Bollywood. I'm not saying not Bollywood, so not musically, but they do this thing where they sort of introduce the hero and the heroine, and they do that sort of. He turns to the camera and the wind blows his hair.
Oh, yes.
And you even get like a music cue, and you're like, "Oh my god, I forgot Indian movies did this." And it's it was like, oh, and when
It's only Indians and Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yes, yeah. When they introduce Tanya's character, Tulika, she has this sort of, the wind's blowing her hair, and that actress, she has the biggest beautiful eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, I can totally see why they picked you to be the heroine of this movie. You're like, you're almost perfect in this sort of, this oh, this is everything you desire in a woman sort of thing. It's really brilliant. I kind of liked it, but also you just think, oh, I forgot they did this. I don't know who the choreographer was or anything like that, but it's fucking brutal, and it basically sets its sort of, it's flags out straight up when they're on the train, and the first kill, let's say, is like a cookery to the top of this dude's head, and you're immediately like, oh, okay, we're there then. We're going big and gory straight away. So that's what this movie's going to be. So the rest of the movie is like just knives everywhere and people getting chopped up and real brutal stuff. It is on the later John Wick scale of
exhausting.
Yeah,
okay.
This dude should be dead 5 times over.
Like Boy Kills World.
Well, yes.
The end of that, I was like, how are you even moving your limbs?
Yeah, there is definitely this sort of whole, he's been hit with crowbars and he's been stabbed at least 3 times already. Yeah. And that's like 10 minutes, that's like 20 minutes in, and you're like, oh, Jesus Christ, how is this guy going to survive the rest of the fucking movie?
Yeah.
Even the funny thing is you don't get the title card until like half an hour in.
Oh, wow.
And it's like, oh shit, that's the title card. What the fuck just happened? And you do, when the title card comes up, you have this moment of, well, oh, hang on, was that the end? Because it sort of happens, and the character gets, slight spoiler, he gets hit down and he's like unconscious, and you're like, oh, is he gonna get back up? Because I'm not quite fucking sure. This movie is brilliant. I loved it.
I'm so glad.
But it's, bear in mind, it's the whole stupidly over the top stuff.
Of course.
It's got some really nice, there are some head poundings and gore. And there's one particular dude, I have no idea what his character was called or what his name is, but there is this massive dude. He is huge. And the fight scenes between the main guy and him are awesome. But you do sort of think, he's the big dude just giving it full-on haymakers.
Mm-hmm.
And you're thinking, I know he's a commando and stuff, and he's fully trained and stuff, but these fucking haymakers look like they would take you out straight up with one fucking punch. So how the fuck he's surviving these, I don't know. It's really, really cool. It's got some really surprising moments, some real moments where you go, oh, fuck. Is
right.
that, real sort of, oh, did they really just do that? And then they, not only do they go, we've just done this, and just to make sure, we're going to grind it in as well, all right? So there are some moments where you go, oh, fuck. Oh, and quite early in the movie, and you're thinking, oh, fuck, this is not what I was expecting.
Mm.
If you love the John Wick movies, you will adore this movie.
Cool.
It's right up there. It's got no sort of, doesn't really have any sort of humor or anything like that. So it's not got any, underlying things. It's basically just a very, very well done action movie.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad I watched it, because it was like, it's exactly what I needed. I was like, I need to watch an action movie.
Sometimes you're just in the fucking mood for that. I
want to see some dudes get beaten up.
No, I get that.
And this was utterly perfect for that. I was so happy. And if that's your bag, you cannot go wrong with this. This is just pure action movie heaven.
Excellent, excellent. No, I'm glad. I will definitely give that a watch. That sounds, again, when I'm in the mood, I'm in the mood, and that sounds like one to keep ready. Anyway, back to vampires. So I started last night watching Castlevania Nocturne Season 2. We both watched Season 1. Castlevania, I think, is one of the best Western animation shows made. I loved that show. I thought Season 1 was pretty good. Season 2 was excellent, and it just got better and better. I loved Castlevania.
It had its moments where it was like it dipped, but overall, I think that series was fucking amazing.
Yeah, and then Castlevania Nocturne came along. I thought it was okay. I liked bits of it. I wasn't sure about other bits. I wasn't sure about some of the characters, but overall I liked it, and I was like, well, I'm invested enough in the Castlevania, the video games, but also now the fantastic Netflix series that I'm like, yeah, okay, well, Season 2, cool. I saw earlier this week that it was coming on Thursday. It was just on, I was on Netflix watching.
I didn't realise it was released, so I haven't seen it.
I think I was watching Star Trek on Netflix, and it came up. And I was like, oh, cool. Okay. So I kind of put a reminder. And then yesterday I remembered. So as soon as I finished work, I was like, I'll watch an episode. I'll take my time with it,
I have to admit, I don't remember a lot about the first season.
Well, remind yourself, Matt, because this was fucking excellent.
Okay.
This was, oh God, this is so much better. I was like, oh, thank God. Like, I thought with Season 2, it picks up immediately where Season 1 left off, so you'll have to, catch up if you've forgotten. Remind yourself.
I'll watch the whole season again. It's not that long, is it?
No, it's only like 6 or 8 episodes.
Yeah,
I thought this was a massive step up on the first season.
Okay, that's good.
In a similar way, now that I think back on it, because I really appreciate Castlevania Season 1 now, but I remember at the time thinking like, oh, it's pretty good. Like, I'm curious to see where it goes. Now I love it in hindsight, but yeah, this season really.
The problem with the first season of Castlevania was that it felt very much like a setup.
Yes, and this did as well now. Where I'm like, oh, okay, this was all set up, and now I'm seeing where this is going. This very much feels like Season 2 of Castlevania, where it is like, okay, we've set everything up, now go. It like I said, it picks up immediately after Nocturne Season 1 did, where the vampire god or the Egyptian god has been kind of brought forth, at least in part, as we learn. We've got now Alucard has joined the team. He kind of turned up at the end. Sorry. Thank God, indeed. We knew he was going to turn up. It was like, when's he going to turn up? Because he's still alive. Everyone else must be dead, but Alucard's still alive. Yeah. So this basically picks up at that point. Alucard already has been trying to stop the coming of this god, Sekhmet. And so he's been actively doing that elsewhere, which is why he turned up late. He heads off with Richter and Annette to Paris, where they believe the mummy of Sekhmet is being kept in a museum. So they're off over there. And then we have what is her name? I always forget her name. Oh God, what is her name? The sister. I can't think of her bloody name now. But in any case, we have the rest of them obviously staying where they were and dealing with the fallout of of Season 1. So obviously Terra, Maria, that was her name, Maria. Her mother got turned into a vampire at the end of that, so we now see her transformation and how she deals with now suddenly being a vampire. We have Maria, who is now dealing with the fact that she found out her father, the abbot, is not the good Christian man that she thought he was. He's actually creating night creatures, and he's actually assisting the vampires. So we've got a lot of fallout, and we also see Orlox, who was the vampire that killed Richter Belmont's mother, who he was initially like all about killing. We kind of follow him as well. And what this season does very well is all of the characters that kind of annoyed me or I wasn't sure about, we see way more of, and they totally won me over in their own respective ways. They all do their character arcs. They all evolve together. We see more history that kind of gives us, as Castlevania did so well. There's no black and white. It's all shades of grey, and we get to see all of that. It also does what I thought Castlevania did superbly well. It does it very well here, where everyone splits up and we get stories in other parts and other areas, and we get that like multiple storylines going on at the same time, but handled very well. They do that here as well. So it was superb, and I think obviously having Alucard back helped a lot as well, because it kind of roots it back in the original series. I thought this was superb. I honestly was going to watch like 1 or 2 episodes last night and call it quits and leave it for a bit, just to kind of, But yeah, I blitzed it. I was going to watch Salem's Lot this morning. I think I said to you yesterday. And in the end, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to watch the next 4 episodes and watch that before I start work today. And it was fantastic. Really, really enjoyed this. I'm glad, because I liked season 1, but it was nowhere near on the level of Castlevania.
I think it kind of
this is getting there now.
Quickly in my head, the first season.
This is getting there now for me. This was really good. By the end of this, I was like, this was really.
You
really
sold
good.
me, because I wasn't sure whether I was pretty sure it was going to, but I was a bit. It was one of those things that I think would have probably fallen away.
Well, I'd be curious to see what you think of it.
To it, sort of thing.
I'd be curious to see what you think of it. If you watch it,
I'm totally sold now.
I really liked this. I really liked the Egyptian Sekhmet stuff. Was a really nice addition. Like the Egyptian gods being involved and stuff like that was really cool. And it goes into the backstory, and because they kind of touched on it, but not properly in season 1. And in this, they go right back, and we kind of see all of that. In many ways, it has kind of made me tempted to watch season 1 again, because I feel like maybe I'll appreciate season 1 more now that I've seen more of the story. But yeah, I was really impressed with this. In like I said, it's not that I disliked season 1. I thought season 1 was okay. I just didn't think it was anywhere near what I came to expect from Castlevania.
Yeah,
this is definitely on the right path now. I feel like if they make another season, yeah, totally, I'll watch it day 1 for sure.
One of the things that put me off about the series was what was kind of Richter's design. He looks like he's straight out of a Fatal Fury.
Well, the problem is that is Richter Belmont's design.
I know.
Kind of is how Richter looks in the game, so they kind of went, and I guess, in some things they've changed, some things they haven't, because obviously Annette in the video games is just a white girl. Obviously they've changed her here and given her this whole really interesting backstory, which again comes into play in this, like so much more than it did in season 1. So it's like, okay, cool, like you've actually, like there's a really interesting story here that that I guess they hinted at in season 1. I just need to be more fucking patient. That's the maybe that's the thing. I think the trouble is I loved Castlevania so much that Nocturne was never gonna, but season 2 has really picked it up. I really enjoyed this season. I thought it was really, really good. So okay. I'd be very curious to see what you think of it once you've seen it.
It was going to be one of those things that I was, sort of hoping to sit out and watch, and I think it might have fallen away. But now you've said that,
I'd be curious to see what you think of it. I was almost immediately like, "Oh, this is so much better." Like it's like you're all of the characters are here now, and you're gonna flesh them all out. Just as well gets fleshed out a lot more. The elder Belmont. Okay. I thought all of the characters. It does all of the characters a lot more justice in this. I was really really impressed by how much deeper they went with each character, because some of the characters felt kind of shallow in season 1, if I'm honest. But here, I really liked it.
Yeah, I think that was one of the problems, wasn't it? The 3 mains in the first in Castlevania are all fucking great.
Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah.
Those 3 main made. I mean,
Cypher, Trevor, and Alucard are just superb.
Yeah,
yeah,
and
Dracula, obviously.
Yeah, and it was always going to be a bit of a sort of
100%
hard act to follow. And the first season they didn't, for me, didn't do that terribly well.
No,
and as I said, the fact that it's kind of fallen out of my head.
Yes, just shows that it didn't have the staying power. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think season 2 may do for you. It certainly did for me. I'm really hyped now for more. Whereas I was like going into this, I was like, well, I want to see it. I'm curious. I'm not like overly excited about it. But within a few episodes, I was like, oh no, this feels way more like Castlevania now. This is like, this is really good. I think the addition of Alucard helps a lot.
Yeah.
But also, seeing more of the characters and their backstories and learning more about them, it worked a lot better, I think, in this season. So, yeah. I'm curious to see what you think when you see it.
The line delivery by James Callis in my favourite line delivery for him was, "It's the magical door of death."
Yeah, he's got some great lines in this as well. He's still got that dry humor and yeah.
I mean, James Callis is fucking awesome.
I was thinking this the other day. I haven't seen. Apparently, he's in Picard season 2, right? Which I haven't seen.
Oh, is he? Oh,
but I don't think I've seen him in a bad role. Like, he's great in everything. Like, even if he's in a bad role, his performance is always good.
Well, I remember
always good
from really early roles where he in the dodgy soaps and things.
Yeah.
And detective stuff where he'd just sort of turn up and do his role and I remember him having a presence in all of those.
Always capable,
sort of things. But I mean, truly, if you want to see his brilliance, his portrayal of Baltar,
yes,
in Battlestar Galactica
and if I had to pick an episode, the episode where Baltar's on trial.
Oh.
Where he goes into his backstory as a farmer, and he's like, he like changes his voice and all of that.
Got the accent, yeah.
Oh my god, he was so good in those scenes. I was like, wow, this is amazing. Like, he's so good.
Yeah, and the thing is he does an amazing job of making you both fucking hate him and love him,
and relate to him in a weird way, even though he's a total bastard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there are bits where you fucking despise him.
Yes.
You see him when they're.
But then he gets knocked down so far that you're like, oh, I kind of feel sorry for you now, and I don't want to, but I do. And
it's when he's the scenes where they've made that colony, they've made the Cylons turned up and have taken over.
Yeah.
And they're making him sign like death warrants and stuff.
Yeah.
And you just think, oh my god, you can see in his eyes, he's this like a hair's breadth of giving up. It's like, and you sort of think, part of you goes, fucking good, because
he does kind of deserve it, but
you still sort of feel sorry for the fucker.
Yeah.
And the fact that he can make you feel sorry for him with how loathsome he is just proof that he's
just that good. Yeah.
Maybe it was just the writing, but I don't think it was just the writing. I think it was.
No, I think his performance as Gaius is superb. And I really love his Alucard as well. I think he does a very good job as Alucard.
His Alucard is wonderful.
But yeah, so I'd be curious to see what you think of it. But personally, I thought this was a big step up on season 1 for sure for me.
Oh, good.
So what else have you watched?
That's
the last of the vampires, guys, I promise.
That is the last of the vampires.
I won't review a vampire thing now for months. I'll leave it for like a year. I'm not going to watch it anymore.
Which one do I do first? Let's do American Primeval.
All right, let's stick with TV. This is a show I thought looked superb. I've been meaning I want to see this, so I'm curious.
So this series dropped on Netflix January 9th. It's sort of Oregon Trail-y.
Yeah.
1850 something or other.
It's going to be a real happy time.
Yeah, you already know it's not going to be. It's not going to be that happy, is it? And the trailers,
Yeah, the trailer kind of, yeah.
So you've got Taylor Kitsch, Betty Gilpin, Dane DeHaan, Samira Lightfoot-Leon, Joe Tippett, Jai Courtney, Wingham, Kim Coates as bloody Brigham Young, which was
Nice.
okay. So you've got real people, and
Real people.
real
It's
people.
not just mannequins. It's real people. No, it's a superb cast. It's a really good
actual
cast.
historical characters is what I meant.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yes.
So Brigham Young and what's his name? Jim Bridger.
Yeah,
are real people.
Your West knowledge is much better than mine.
Yeah, and my knowledge of this is hazy.
Okay.
But I do know about the Mountain Massacre and the Mormon involvement in it.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, our sort of main is Betty Gilpin's Sarah, who is traveling with her son, who he's got like a brace on his knee, and he's I'm not exactly sickly, but he's clearly not a normal child, as it were.
Sure.
He's had they've had a few knocks, and she is going to this place called something Springs to see her husband, who's got a gold claim there. And she keeps saying, "Oh, my husband's blah, blah, blah," but she hasn't seen her husband for years, and they've clearly had no, messages or contact. So she might turn up there and get nothing, or it might.
Sure.
So there is this sort of overlying thing of should she even be going? Slight spoilers: you do find out that she's also on the run.
Okay.
Taylor Kitsch is Isaac, who is this sort of he's a sort of Hawkeye type character. He's sort of been brought up with Indians, and he's a tracker, and
okay.
He has this sort of world weary, I want to be on my own, I've got no business sort of thing. But Sarah tries to hire him to take her because she loses her. In a very brief sort of when we first see her, she's at the train station waiting for her this guy she's hired to take her to this place. He turns up late, and she's like, berating him and stuff, and he clearly doesn't give a fuck. And they go to this fort where Jim Bridger's fort, which is sort of in this sort of opening part. They like roads lead here, and then further that you stock up here and then you go out to the unknown sort of thing, right? Meanwhile in this is like Utah, so you've got Brigham Young is trying to make his his Mormon paradise here. So there's a massive tension going on between the federal government troops and settlers and the Mormons, Mormons want everybody else to fuck off. This is for them. You do you. We're we don't really want to be part of America, sort of thing. This is our kingdom. So you have that sort of thing going on in the background, and they turn up to this this fort, which is like barely a fort. It's a shithole. And in a matter of minutes, her guide gets brutally fucking murdered by this dude.
Right.
And then he gets hung, and you're like, okay, so this is where we are, right? You know where you are. So then it becomes this sort of you have this Danger Hands character who's a Mormon, and he's got this new wife, and this new wife clearly not happy with her marriage. She doesn't, I don't think she wants to find herself. She wants to be more than just a housewife. And Sarah ends up traveling with them. Now they end up meeting with this wagon train, and basically they get wiped out. The whole fucking wagon train gets completely obliterated by Mormons dressed as Indians.
Right.
But there are survivors. So there's this whole thing where Betty Gilpin's Sarah and her son get kind of rescued by Isaac, Taylor Kitsch's character, when he said he wasn't going to help them, but he does. He followed them and he helped them. So you've got those two survivors. Then you've got Dane DeHaan, who survives, but he was almost scalped. So he's got this flap of his head is coming up. His wife also survives, but she's taken off by the Indians to be sold with another bunch of Indians, and she's not not exactly rescued, but she is taken by a different tribe of Indians, who is Red Feather, led by Red Feather, who is basically on the warpath. He wants to kill the whites. So you have quite a complex set of stuff going on. What I will say is you've got a lot of characters, and the main problem is it's almost too brutal in its.
Wow. Okay.
It's just that every time you sort of
to the point that it feels mean-spirited, or
a little. It's more that they clearly want to show you how brutal the West was at this point.
Sure. But
it's a case of you get to know a character.
But it needs to be an enjoyable watch.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the problem, So you get a character, you get to know a character, they off him. And I don't really want to spoil anything, but by the end, you're like, okay, no, I can't spoil it. I don't want to spoil it.
That's okay. Yeah.
But by the end, you're like, okay. And I don't think it helps that Sarah, she has this fucking terrible habit of not doing what she's told. Right. I don't mean that she's a woman, she should do what she's told.
No, sure.
I mean, she is told on multiple occasions, doing this will be a fucking bad idea, and she does it anyway. And you think, there's a point where you go, okay, she's a good, but the thing is she's a good person. She has Christian values, and she's a good person, and she wants to do the right thing. But you also think, yes, but there is a point where you must realise if you're doing this, you're a fuckwit. So you get your main character is very hard to be sympathetic to when she's doing stupid shit that you just want to punch her for.
Yeah.
It's filmed. It's a beautiful looking thing, like like all westerns kind of should be, really, I suppose. And it's always beautiful in its ugliness. It's the thing is that it was written by the guy who did The Revenant, which kind of makes you go, okay, I can see that. And it's directed by what's his name? He's an actor as well. What is his name? It's not bloody saying it here. Who directed him? Peter Berg, who's an actor and a director. He does a really good job. He is one of the characters in it as well. But I wouldn't say like mean spirited, like you said, but it almost verges on that. It almost feels like it's verging on misery porn.
Right. Yeah.
It gets to the point where you're like, okay. And there's a again, not trying to spoil it, but there's a bit with two of the characters with what happens to them at the end, and I sort of saw it coming, but I was sort of sat there thinking, I don't do this. I can see what you're going to do, and I don't do this. Find another way of doing this or something.
Sure, yeah.
And I'm not saying it needed to be a happy ending or anything, because that's not what happens. But they chose to be that brutal with those characters, and you're like, okay, fine. People have been comparing it to 18. Oh bloody hell! Is it 1873? 18.
Oh yeah, the Yellowstone prequel.
Yeah, right. People are comparing it because although it's a different. It's years late. That one's like 10, 20 years later, and it's a different sort of set of circumstances to a certain degree. It has a similar sort of overall thing, you know, settlers moving through the West. They are so different in their execution. The 1871 has 1883, isn't it? 1883.
Mm-hmm.
That one gives you time with the characters. It gives you build up with those characters. You like being with those characters. It's a proper journey with those characters. With this, there's so much going on, and there's so many characters that you instantly fucking hate because they're horrible fucking people.
Yeah.
That it just didn't feel like it. How do I put this? I mean, I could just say I didn't fucking enjoy it as much as that. It's as simple as that.
Fair enough.
It didn't have the sort of the same build up and the same desire to be, certainly for me, to be with those characters than it did in the other. And there's one thing that is strikingly obvious. The people who made this really fucking don't like Mormons.
Right.
They are full on like these Mormons are evil people that are doing evil things for the sake of their thing. Now, I know that the massacre, the Mountain Massacre, whatever it is, happened in real life. It was a group of Mormons dressed as Indians murdered a bunch of settlers. That is true. But that was just one sect of Mormons from what I know of, you know, the events there.
Yeah.
And from what, I mean, whether Brigham Young knew it or condoned it or you know, set it up in the first place, I don't think is known. I don't think it's known whether he really did or not. But I think you could probably say that there is a difference between, you know, a lot of the Mormons that wanted to be left alone and wanted to, you know, be aside from them, and out, let's just murder everybody. This show just goes, yeah, Mormons are awful. So I think if you're a Mormon,
you probably avoid this one. Yeah.
I think you probably best to avoid this one. It's not a bad series, but by the end of it, I did feel like, well, that was an experience.
Yeah.
And it's certainly one that I wouldn't want to do again.
Yeah.
Whereas 1883, I could watch again now. I'd happily put that on again. And even that's gotten. I mean, what happens? Have you seen that?
No.
Oh man, you should see that because that's fucking amazing. That's got some really brutal and horrible moments in it. But this one, yeah, it upped the ante on the brutal and the everyone's dead, Dave. It's like everybody's dead, Dave. I mean, I can recommend it, that it's a well-made, you know, series.
Yeah.
And I can recommend it if this is your thing, if you like sort of tales of the pioneers sort of thing, and you know, it certainly is that.
Yeah.
But it is not easygoing. It is not and I don't expect these sorts of tales to be happy clappy or anything, or even have a happy ending. But I do expect there to be at least some fucking enjoyment, because
well, you need that. You need something.
Yeah, because half of the time with this, it's like, oh, why am I still watching this? Because there were times where I was asking myself, you know, there was a certain character that started becoming interesting, let's say, because I don't want to spoil anything. There's a character that's like, oh, I'm really enjoying this character. He's really cool. He's had some really interesting thoughts on what's going on and stuff. And then it, just like that, he's gone, and you're like, oh, well, what the fuck am I watching this for now? You know, every time it's like it gives you something, and then it immediately fucking takes it away, and that's just not satisfying.
No,
it's really annoying.
Yeah,
But
it is a balance for sure.
yeah, it is,
Yeah.
and it's. I mean, it's it is really well made, and it is really well acted, and it's it's all those good things,
Mm.
but it is just too much, I think, and it's just your enjoyment may vary, but for me it was I can only really recommend it if this is your thing and you really can put up with the brutality.
Mm.
Um,
That's a shame. I was really won over by the trailer.
yeah,
Now
it
I'm like,
is.
oh, I'm
It
definitely
is.
definitely going to be one that I need to be in the mood for.
It's not like the trailer lies to you.
No, no, no. The
It
trailer's
shows
pretty
you what
brutal. Yeah,
the trailer does show you kind of what to expect,
yeah,
but it doesn't give you enough of the characters to sort of really truly enjoy them.
yeah.
To sort of want to be with them and to want to spend the time with them. And I love Betty Gilpin. I think she's a wonderful actress. She spends most of the time in this either making stupid choices or crying,
Mm.
and it's like, oh, I want to like your character, but you're not helping. You really are not helping me here.
Yeah.
Um, so I would. It's a half recommendation.
Okay.
It's not all. I mean, poor old Dane fucking DeHaan, his character spends most of his fucking time sat down staring into the fucking distance,
Right.
and you're like, fucking do something with him for fuck's sake. Dane DeHaan's a good actor.
Yeah, definitely.
Can we
Absolutely.
not just can he be a bit more proactive or something? Give him something to fucking do.
Mm.
So yeah, it's a half recommendation,
Okay.
but only if this is your bag.
Well, yeah, like I said, I was really tempted to watch it. I may give it a go, but I'll make sure I'm in the right mood. I think from what you've said here. So
I'd say watch 1883 before you watch this, because that's
sure.
fucking great.
Yeah. Alrighty, and finally, I believe.
So my final movie is Timestalker.
Yes. Now I'm curious about this. Big Alice Lowe fan. So
So yeah, this is Alice Lowe, written, directed, starring. Alice Lowe previously has been in things like Garth Marenghi, and
yes.
she directed a wonderful Prevenge. Have you seen Prevenge?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Prevenge. She's fucking
It's
amazing in that,
wonderful.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
really well directed. Great movie. So this one we have her. She's more than one person, so but she's not. So she is Agnes, and it starts off in what year did it start off in? It's 1600s, I think, isn't it? I'm trying to find where if it has the dates. No, I can't really find it. I think it starts off in 1600 Scotland,
Right.
where she's a sort of seems like a peasant girl who's like at odds with what's going on around her, and she is there's some. I think he's supposed to be a sort of preacher, a sort of holy man who's sort of giving these sermons, and he gets captured, and they're about to execute him, and she goes to see the execution, where he is revealed because he's wearing this big mask, and he's revealed to be Anwen Bernard, who is this Welsh actor. He's a wonderful actor. He has this sort of swarthy good looks, and she's immediately falls in love with him, and she's listened to his words, and she's totally like, oh no, I will never forget you, and all this sort of thing. And then she promptly dies, and he runs away.
Mm.
And then we're in the 1700s, and she's the wife of Nick Frost's George character, who's this awful sort of landowner type who treats her like a dog, and like literally like a dog. He puts a leash on her, and
God, right.
and does horrible, and he's really horrible. But of course, she's seen this highwayman again, Alex, played by Anwen Bernard, who failed to rob them, but she's determined to see him because she's seen him and she feels she knows him, and she's had flashes of the future. She's had these flashes of her future selves,
Right.
and basically from there it becomes a sort of, she moves on through time, and each time she's obsessed with this guy who clearly doesn't give a fuck about her, but every time she sort of gets to the point where they might become something, or that something might happen, she's brutally killed. Until you get to the 1980s,
right,
where he's now a sort of Adamant style pop star, and she's his obsessive groupie fan sort of thing.
Okay.
And there are other, there are sort of a collection of people that seem to exist with her through time, like her friend, Meg, who clearly is in love with her. Like she was her servant at one point in one, thing, and she was just a vague friend in another, but this time she's she's like her best friend, and they've moved to New York, and Nick Frost is basically going through time just to make her life miserable, sort of thing.
Right.
So that's the sort of overall sort of thing, and as you would expect from Lowe, it has a real dark sense of humor at its core, and there were some moments where I absolutely, gave out big old guffaws of laughter. The problem is it doesn't keep together very well. It feels like it had an idea, like an overall idea, but it doesn't feel like they quite knew how to carry it off. At times it almost feels like she just wanted to dress up. She's got favourite periods of time, and she was just
like, I want to do this, and I'm going to base a movie around it. Yeah,
which is kind of fine to a certain degree,
to an extent.
Yeah, and there are some lovely moments in it, like with genuine like weird humour, but it sort of it lulls between those bits. They're like every time you get to a point where you're like, oh, this is really interesting, it then sort of almost like peters away.
Yeah.
Like it sort of was like, oh, you've lost me now. It's like you didn't have that complete through that it needed to sort of to keep with it, and it's obviously it's trying to say something about unrequited love and the nature of the nature of letting yourself be who you want to be and not trying to follow someone who clearly has no fucking affection for you. And it's a why do we make the same mistakes every time? Even if you know things about yourself, sort of thing. What I mean? It's like she clearly knows that she's been through these lives and stuff. And there's a really good joke about when there are these flashes where she screams, and you get these flashes of all her other selves screaming.
Right.
So you see the different sort of the different timelines, and there's one that's clearly supposed to be Cleopatra.
Okay.
So there's this joke that she's talking to Meg, her friend, and she says, "Do you believe in reincarnation?" And Meg goes, "Yeah, I do. I believe I was Cleopatra." And she's like, "Well, I believe I was Cleopatra. You both can't be Cleopatra." And a slight spoiler: it turns out she wasn't Cleopatra. She was actually a magician's assistant in the 1940s, dressed as Queen Cleopatra. So you get that. And annoyingly, it's one of those movies where you keep seeing the little brilliance in it. Like there are these little ideas where, when you get to the point where she realizes that life wasn't what it was something else, and the relationships have moved on slightly, but she didn't remember them properly, sort of thing. If you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so in the 80s, she sort of she gets this, she sees this sort of 40s version of herself, and the relationship was different, but she'd forgotten it, sort of thing. So, and you think, oh, if you'd have just stayed with that a little bit more and fleshed it out, it would have been really nice and interesting. And there are these lovely little niggling things about this movie that I really liked.
Mm.
But overall, it kind of just feels a bit too messy.
Right.
And it did get to the point where about half an hour before the end, where I was like, okay, I'm ready for this to be over now.
Oh no.
That is never good in a...
No, definitely not.
When you're going, okay, I think I'm done here now.
Yeah.
Can we move on? And it pains me to say this because I really do love Alice Lowe, and I think
me too.
She's really talented, but I think she missed the mark with this one.
That's such a shame.
I honestly can't recommend this one. It's just not a very good movie.
No, that's a shame.
And I hate to say it, but it's not. It just wasn't as. It's at its core, it has these lovely little ideas that I don't think they handled well.
Mm.
I think if you're an Alice Lowe fan, I think you will get something out of it. There are certainly moments that were really funny, and there are certain, observations about life and things that you will go, yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
But it's not enough to make me go, watch this movie.
Sure.
It's not. It's
well.
Only for fans of Alice Lowe, and then I would put caveats on it, because even then it's not that good.
No, so it's well, I mean, certainly she's done better. So.
Oh yeah, Prevenge
is great.
For anybody who hasn't seen Prevenge, see Prevenge.
Totally agree.
That's if you don't know who Alice Lowe is, see that and see Sightseers.
Mm.
She's fucking amazing in Sightseers. That's a really great, and also she's great in Garth Marenghi. If you haven't seen Garth Marenghi,
oh yeah, obviously, yeah.
I mean that really is a sort of one of those test series where you go, you like weird comedies, yes? Try this. See how you get on with it. if you can cope with that, Garth Marenghi is like.
I still think it's one of the funniest series I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah,
like genuinely,
I
think it's hilarious.
You have to sort of, when you explain it to people, you have to sort of go, do you like late 70s and early 80s weird sci-fi shows?
Yeah,
like Sapphire and Steel.
I was just going to say Sapphire and Steel. That's really funny.
Do you like that? Well, it's kind of like that, but taking the piss out of all of that as well.
Yeah.
In a good way. It's not being cruel about those things. It clearly loves those things. But it is very fucking weird and British. So, I highly recommend the series. But I know it's that sort of thing where you go, I recommend this to you, but you're probably going to hate me for it and not trust my judgment afterwards.
Yeah.
So it's this sort of thing that my wife does. She's like, am I going to like this? And I'm like, probably not. And she's like, well, I'm not going to bloody watch it then, am I? But yeah, I'd say, if you're interested in Alice Lowe, Sightseers and Prevenge, go for those.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
they're great.
Yeah, you should watch those anyway.
Maybe skip this one.
Well, that's a shame. Well, that's it for the movies and the TV and everything else. Let's move on to the depressing news.
Yep. So, yesterday, in my opinion, great man David Lynch died.
100% agree.
78. I loved what his family said. His family said, where is it? It is with deep regret his family announced the passing of the man, the artist David Lynch. We would appreciate some privacy at this time. There is a big hole in the world now that he is no longer with us. But as he would say, keep your eye on the donut and not the hole. It's a beautiful day, golden sunshine and blue skies all the way.
That's a really nice message.
That's that's kind of, you know, that to me says a lot about him. You know,
Yeah, absolutely.
That I did you ever watch any of his weather reports over
Yes,
COVID?
yeah.
They were so good. They're just the weirdest little sweet moments of like of a man going, I'm just going to do this and maybe cheer some people up. You know, it felt very much like that. It's like, and I adore David Lynch movies. I think he's one of those filmmakers that I think you really have to have an openness to enjoy.
I completely agree. Yeah.
His movies are not easy watches. I would, you know, they're my wife likes a lot of David Lynch, but we got to a point with when we watched the Inland Empire, and at the end, my wife said, "I don't think I want to watch any more David Lynch movies.
I'm done."
And it was like, okay, I kind of see that after that movie. It was like, okay, yeah, I understand why you would get that. And there was when we were first going out, you know, I was trying to cram in as many movies to show her, you know, as she could cope with. And I did show her Blue Velvet quite early on. And it was one of those cases where you go, okay, how did you find that? And she's like, it was good, bit weird. And you think, okay, that's good. That's, you know, I know where we are now. That's I probably shouldn't push it too much. And then I showed her Tetsuo,
and that was the fucking push too far.
That was the point where she went, yeah, don't fucking make me watch it like this again. And I'm like, okay,
stop.
But at least I managed to get in, you know, some David Lynch movies.
Dude, that's a fucking challenge. I don't think I've ever been with a girl that I've shown Tetsuo to before. That would be an interesting one. Yeah.
I mean, when we discussed the movie, I said, you know, we got in.
Did you say, do you want to watch it again, dear?
We got 10 minutes in, and that was when she said, no, switch this off. So that was fine. Yeah, I know what it is. And I think that, for me, Lynch has always scratched that itch for me of showing you what you can do with cinema.
Yes, absolutely.
He has this sort of he had this ability to just go, this is not books, this is not TV, this is a film that you can do weird and interesting things with, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful and weird things.
Yeah.
And you can push what you want to show people. And not only that, you can make something and go and you know, let it go and go, right, do with it what you want. I'm not fucking answering any of your questions.
Yeah.
You know, I made this, but I'm happy for you to take away what you take away from it.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to tell you whether you're right or wrong either, because I don't think you are.
Yeah.
And I love that idea that cinema can be that. Sure, we will all want to watch movies and be entertained.
Yeah.
But I think there's, certainly for me, maybe it's because I'm an artist, he said, fucking, you know, being a twat. But the artist in me likes things that are different and weird and challenging and can show you something different than the norms and not be, you know, conventional or terrible. Because I think the difference with Lynch and a lot of, you know, some of the other weirder movies that are out there is that you can see that he knows what he's doing. You know what I mean? It's like he's not like an amateur filmmaker who's making a weird movie. He's a guy who's studied what these things mean and what they do, and he knows what he's working with, and he knows how to show you these things.
Absolutely.
And I genuinely think we've lost a real visionary director, And the world will be poorer for his loss, because he was a truly unique director who could do relatively normal movie. I mean, The Elephant Man, although it's got some very weird parts of it, it's got quite a surreal opening and close. Overall, it's a quite standard, beautiful movie.
Yeah, I mean, I think it captures the horribleness of that of that life, the pain and anguish that man went through every day of his life, and the way he was treated. And I think it's interesting because he does have those Lynchian moments in that movie, whilst still being massively respectful to the man and telling his story, and doing his story justice. He didn't, there's no taking advantage of the real life person there. It does tell that really, really quite tragic story, but it does tell that story very well, I think.
Yeah, and there are some of his movies are a little more accessible, like Wild at Heart, and the straight stories, complete departure really from his other works. And then when you get to things like Mulholland Drive and Inland Empire, those are the challenging movies. Those are the movies where I think those are the movies where you get, if you want to show somebody a movie and go, okay, are you ready for something that will keep you up at night and possibly make you think about things? Then here's the movie for you.
Yeah.
Because I think, Mulholland Drive I've watched with a number of people at different times. And I've watched it with people that have sat there and gone, well, that was the worst movie I've ever seen. And then a week later they'll go, that fucking movie, I've been thinking about it all week. And I still don't get it.
Yeah.
But there's been stuff in that movie that just make me go...
But it's making you think. Yeah,
exactly. And I think, for me, that's a win for me, because I showed you something that...
Yeah.
kind of... I mean, in a cruel way, that I've done my job there. I've made you watch something that you haven't experienced before.
And it's thought-provoking. I mean, there's a lot of pretentious crap out there that I'll see and never give a second thought to. I'm like, this is just nonsense rubbish, There's always substance, with Lynch's stuff.
And I think Inland Empire, there are times in that one where it verges on you're just doing weird stuff now.
Yeah.
But I think, for me, he sort of pulls it back enough to sort of it not to be awful. But I think, again, your average moviegoer, not so much.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I utterly adore Lynch. I think Twin Peaks was a massive series when that first season came out. Are you old enough? You're old enough to. But did you ever watch it when it came out, when it started?
I didn't watch it when it started. No, I watched it later.
I watched it when it first came out, when it was first released, and that was a series. That was the old water cooler series. Everybody watched that fucking show. Everybody talked about that show, and it was a sort of one of those shows that was like, what the hell are we watching? Where is this going? What are the it was one of those massive shows that brought up all these like interesting questions with these weird characters. And that the second season, sadly, he didn't have so much to do with, and it drops off a little.
Yeah.
But that first season...
Oh, it's wonderful, yeah.
Brilliant, pure brilliance. And The Return... mixed views on The Return. Fire Walk With Me, however, is a wonderful movie.
Mm-hmm.
He will be sorely missed, and Eraserhead again, another one of his first. There's a movie that it's really hard for people to watch, and the thing about Eraserhead is that I heard I forget the comedian's name. I can't remember what his bloody name. Anyway, I heard this explanation for Eraserhead, which is like, oh, that's perfect, and it simply Eraserhead was made by a guy who was worried about his marriage, was worried about having a child, and these are all the thoughts that were going through his head when he made it.
Yeah.
And you think that's the explanation for that movie. It's a movie about the anxieties of relationships and fatherhood.
Mm.
And when you put it like that, it kind of sounds simple, but then, I mean, you still have to watch the movie. But that is the best explanation for that movie I've ever heard.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's great, yeah.
So yeah, so you know, we are in honor of Lynch, we will be doing Blue Velvet next week.
Yes, Blue Velvet is our next movie. And yeah, very fitting, I think. And I haven't seen it for a long time, so I'm quite excited to rewatch it. Yeah, gonna be good. But yes, I think that's about it from us.
Yeah, I don't think there's any great news that's...
No, it's all been depressing. Maybe next time we'll have some happy news. But yes, in any case, stay safe, take care, and we will be back next week.